Welcome back to my channel. So this actually is the second episode and I'm very sorry that it took such a long time, but as always, life is not that easy, as all of you know, of course. My name is Bernhard Fischer and I live in the Austrian mountains. And the main reason why this took so long is actually that I wrote the book and I really totally underestimated the lot of work that goes into such a book. Actually, I finished the text, let's say 1 month after I arrived back in Austria, but then it was at least 6 or 7 months of work to get the text ready to get printed in a book, actually. But finally it's done. The book was released in April this year, so April 2025. And the book is in German at the moment, and it's called Allein nach über den Atlantik. That translates to sailing alone to Iceland across the Atlantic. And I'm really considering to translate this to English, but that's again a new, let's say, huge project. And it's, of course, everywhere available, so just look it up in the internet. Of course, there are links down below where you can get it. So it's a full text book with some charts in it, 400 pages of detailed description, what I had to go through to sail to Iceland and back. And I can just recommend to buy and read the book because there are far more details than I can put into the videos. Otherwise, the videos would last for hours. So that's the book. And now let's go back to the video. I'd like to give you a brief overview about what happened in episode number 1. So this is where I started in Malinska, which is my home port in the Adriatic Sea. And I had 2 guests with me, and we sailed all the way down through the Adriatic and then to the Allein Islands. And this was really a very nerve-wracking passage because we had, let's say, no winds and we had to motor for many hours or even, let's say, days. But finally in the Allein Islands, the wind came back and we had a really nice passage to Cagliari on the island of Sardinia. And that's where this new second episode begins. So there's another thing which I'd like to tell you because I forgot that completely in the first episode. Actually, I use a Garmin, so I use the Garmin InReach device to track the whole journey. And the track is, of course, still online available. The link is down below in the description. But what you can also do with this InReach device is you can put in text messages and send them, and they are then visible on the internet. So there you can read what was going on or what was going on in my head. And I will put the text messages in this episode into the video that you can read what my thoughts were at the time when sailing across this second part, which took place in the Western Mediterranean Sea. So, since it's a long time ago, we have now 2025 and the trip actually was in 2023, I had to look up some details in my log. And this actually is my log. As you can see, that's real paperwork. I prefer to do it on paper, so my documentation of the trip itself. I know that there are a lot of apps available on the smartphone and of course on the computer, but in my opinion they are way too complicated. So here I can just write down exactly what I want to document. So that's the wind strength and sail configuration and some notes about the position and so on. So I had to look up my log and I was completely able, of course, to reconstruct this trip for you. And here I start with my video. As always, my videos are made for the full home cinema experience, so get comfortable, probably get some popcorn, and relax and enjoy this second episode. I sat in Cagliari waiting for better weather conditions. Just a few days, and I used the time to change the engine oil. I planned to sail to Marbella in Spain as my next stop. I deliberately chose this location because my wife and my little daughter will be there on vacation in a few days. The weather around the western Mediterranean basin was what is called a Mistral situation. It is named after the Mistral, which is a strong northwesterly wind. The wind builds up if the isobars are aligned roughly vertically or northeast to southwest aligned along the northern Mediterranean coast. This was exactly the situation as shown in this surface pressure chart. High pressure to the northwest and a low pressure over the Strait of Sicily. And while such a situation over the Adriatic Sea would cause the well-known, comfortable northwesterly summer sailing breeze, it can cause storm-force winds from the Gulf of Lion to the Sardinian Sea. It is one of the most dangerous winds in the whole Mediterranean Sea, and it appears with such a strength and high probability that the Gulf of Lion is counted to the 10 most storm-prone regions of the world, side by side with the infamous Cape Horn. There are several factors which contribute to that, but one is that the mountain ranges along the northern Mediterranean coast have a wide gap here, which is the valley of the Rhone River, and this gap funnels the wind. Finally, I set out while there was still a fresh to strong breeze within the large commercial port of Cagliari. I tried to get some fuel, but the wind was blowing on shore to the gas station. So I changed my plan and left Cagliari without refueling. I set the main and the stay sail, just to be on the safe side. Within the Gulf of Cagliari, the wind was gusty and peaked at the force 6 at times. I headed southwest to leave the Gulf of Cagliari, thereby passing many vessels and some traffic separation schemes. The wind eased and I furled out my Genoa with caution. While I sailed along the coast, I did not yet know that I will sail almost exactly 5 months and 9,000 nautical miles later at similar weather conditions in the exact opposite direction, heading for Cagliari after a big adventure. After leaving the Gulf, the wind picked up again and I changed back to my stay sail and headed into the open western Mediterranean basin. This part is called the Sardinian Sea.
Hungry. Have to eat something.
The conditions were somewhat rough and the sky became cloudy with high clouds, and the sun steadily moved towards the horizon. Sardinia slowly disappeared in the mist.
Some sausage. I brought it with me from Croatia.
From time to time, I dressed into the foul weather gear and checked everything outside. And I headed into the first solo night of this adventure. It was not the first night in general, since I did some test trips in the past. I did a video about the first solo night 2 years ago.
The wind eased a little bit.
or more than a little bit, and I'll get out and put the staysail down, and we'll reef out the Genoa to get a little bit more power here. Unfortunately, the wind died slowly, and at about 2 a.m. there was no wind at all. I was in the middle of 2 low pressure systems. The whole situation was difficult to predict. If the weather forecast changes drastically from one to the next, it is an indication for complicated situations. Both low pressure systems moved further east, as expected, and while this at the same time causes the Bura to blow off the Croatian mountains, an old frontal system from the south shifted over the western Mediterranean basin. This brings variable winds and rain. The boat rolled in the swell with no wind and just rain. The sails flapped from one side to the other. I could spot many jellyfish, commonly called sea rafts or by-the-wind sailors. Officially, their name is velela, and they are very common in the western Mediterranean basin. It's a little bit frustrating. I drifted around the whole night because of simply absolutely no wind. I dropped the sails even to not damage the sails and the battens in the mainsail. Here on the screen you can see what happened in the night. So it's just crazy moving around here along the red line. I checked the weather forecast and the prediction looked like no winds for the next few days. So I finally decided to give up and go back north to Sardinia with the engine. I chose a bay in the southwest of Sardinia called Portofino. A very nice couple, which I met in the marina in Cagliari, suggested this to me. So I motored back towards Sardinia in a dead calm on this grey and misty day. Finally, I arrived in this wide bay with a shallow and sandy bottom and anchored there. So I sat there for the next days, waiting for some wind. It was absolutely calm and repeatedly raining at times. I enjoyed the time and the silence on the boat, and I read a book about the great sailor Bernhard R. He's probably best known for his incredible achievement to non-stop circumvent the world solo in a small boat through the Southern Ocean almost twice in 1968 and 1969. After the first circumnavigation, he was back in the Southern Atlantic, and he was on the way to win the famous Golden Globe race where he participated. But then he decided to give up racing and instead sailed to his beloved Southern Pacific Islands, which required him to again round the world a second time. So he passed the Cape of Good Hope and Cape Liqwyd twice, and then headed north in the middle of the Southern Pacific to reach Tahiti. I didn't round the world even a single time yet, but I love the spirit and highly enjoy this living on the boat. Here on the boat, this is my small world within the vast ocean. Only the rules of the gods and my own abilities count. On my navtex, I got a warning about the military exercise, and I put it into my chart, and I'm actually close to it, so I'm not in it. But currently they are doing some firing exercises on the coast. I hear them shooting with machine guns and probably other weapons. Well, luckily I have this navtex, and I put here into my chart the exact coordinates so to prevent from accidentally getting into it. I worked on the boat with several repairs. I did a slight improvement to the wind steering system, which worked perfect so far. I mounted a safety ring on the rudder coupling to prevent it from accidentally get disconnected. And I monitored the weather. For days there was not much wind around Sardinia, and to the west a northwesterly flow developed, which is not good if you want to go west.
The weather didn't change in my favor for many days. I wasn't in a hurry, but it made me a little bit sad because I intended to meet my wife and my little daughter in Marbella in Spain. But now I was definitely running out of time. I needed at least 7 days for the passage if everything works fine. So I slowly accepted that I will miss them. It was raining since days and the boat slightly rolled from the swell in this open bay. It is a very special atmosphere. Although it was still a variable weather situation, the forecast seemed to slowly improve, meaning giving me the right wind to head further west. I started to prepare for the next passage again. I cleaned the speedometer since it seemed to be stuck. This can happen if the boat rests for a long period of time. After waiting 4 days, it was time to leave. In the morning of the 22nd of May, I pulled the anchor out of the muddy sand and left Portofino. There was no wind at first as expected, but I needed to charge the batteries anyway. I passed the last islets and slowly left Sardinia behind me. After a while, I could set the sails.
So everything works well so far. Unfortunately, I discovered that my sea toilet somewhere leaks water a little bit.
I used the time to make a piece of dynamo for the tack of my stay sail. After Sardinia disappeared in a mist behind me, I took down the Italian courtesy flag, since now I was offshore in international waters. Soon I went into the first night. At about 6 a.m. of the next day, the sun rose in my back while I was on my way to the west. I was very happy to be offshore. All around there's just the sea, wherever you look. The wind picked up during the day and even became a force 6 in the afternoon. And the boat constantly made its way mile after mile. The wind steering unit again proved to be reliable. It's my co-pilot and, in my opinion, the most important one of all of the technical equipment. It went so smooth at the moment. Everything perfect. I could enjoy this for hours, just watching how the boat plows through the waves. It was perfect sailing.
I'm making good progress to the west. Everything fine so far. Nothing happened in the night. Everything worked well, except one fishing vessel called me on the VHF. But I could change my course easily. So now I'm still, of course, on the open sea, and in the background it's getting a little bit dark and cloudy. So let's see what happens. Probably some like thunderstorm or something like that, but it's in the east, so typically they move to the east and not to the west. So.
I was fascinated of all that. Solo sailing in the middle of the sea with no land around was exactly my thing. I knew this since a very long time, but it again proved to be the right thing for me.
The sun will go down in a few minutes, or let's say half an hour. It's a little bit covered in clouds. The whole sky is, partially clouded. But it's perfect sailing wind still, as the whole day and the last night. I hope that the wind stays like this, because it's really perfect. Linda fell down. Yes, that's because the The boat is heavily rolling, but it doesn't matter. As long as the wind holds in this direction, we make good progress into the right direction, and that's all that counts.
During the night, I sleep almost always in the saloon. I feel more ready here, just in case if something happens. If it is calm, I will sleep in my cozy front cabin. When I'm well offshore and there is no traffic in my vicinity, I will set the alarm for 1 hour. After that, I will check the situation and then sleep for the next hour. The Starlink didn't work offshore. There was some confusing information on the internet about that. Some said it works and others said it does not. Mine did not work offshore, here in the Western Mediterranean basin. Interestingly, it worked in the Adriatic Sea. A few weeks later, I will find out that there is an option which can be checked in the Starlink app. At some time, I realized that I needed a little bit more tension on the lock of the chain.
Usually would have to release or you take the pressure out of the sail, but there is so low pressure that it even works without. So probably that's from all that clashing.
Taking care on yourself by eating and drinking enough is vital on such trips. Shortly before I went on that trip, a friend who works at a publisher for sailing and adventure books suggested that I should write a book about my expedition. I found this to be a good idea and started to write, although I had no idea if I will have enough passion. But so far, I kept up with writing chapter after chapter.
So, let's have a nap. The sky cleared up a little bit, so I can open the hatches and let some fresh air flow through my boat.
The wind was light on the 24th of May, and I used it to make some improvements to the installations. Although I did my best, I was still unable to install and finish everything that I had planned to. In this case, I made a wooden panel from the remainders of another installation, which I still kept on the boat. I made this panel to install the battery monitor and one of the USB power chargers.
So that's it. Here is what I installed. So actually you can see here my battery monitor, and that's a USB charging plug. But I didn't connect it yet, so probably I'll connect it tomorrow. That's a little bit, let's say, dirty hack. At home I probably wouldn't do it like that, but you know, you have to use the materials and the tools you have, and that's all that I had now. So, well, but it doesn't look too bad, and well, tomorrow I'll connect it, and then I have a power charger for well, all smartphones and USB devices.
It was 3.5 hours of work. It was evening and became dark. During the night, the wind died and didn't come back. In the forenoon, I ran the engine for about 2 hours to charge up the batteries a little bit. Afterwards, I could set sail again, but it lasted not very long. So I used the time to rest, and I took a seaman-like shower. Unfortunately, something bad happened.
Ah, damn it. I just lost my Samsung Galaxy S22 to the sea. I sunk it accidentally. I did something stupid, but, well, it's lost. So that throws me back a little bit. Luckily, I did a backup of all the footage that I did this afternoon.
It was my own stupidity. There's always some swell on the open sea, even in the Mediterranean. But still, the silence was amazing, almost frightening. Only the moaning and creaking of the boat. I was in the middle of nowhere in respect to the size of the Mediterranean Sea. The visibility was moderate due to mist, and the sky slowly clouded over. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, a single dolphin appeared in a safe distance of about 50 meters. He silently surfaced to take a breath 2 or 3 times. The scenery was completely unreal. Just the moaning of the boat, and then the appearance of this dolphin. It was as if God sent an observer to look after me. As quick as he appeared, he vanished again in this horizonless infinite seascape. The night stayed calm. In the early morning hours, some wind came up, and I could set my sails again. It became great sailing into the right direction with easterly winds. A high-pressure system developed over northwestern Europe, which causes this easterly wind known as Levant here in the western Mediterranean Sea. In the afternoon, I spotted the first sailboat since 4 days.
So there's a catamaran out there. It's the first sailboat since many days. So the problem is it's not visible on the AIS. So that's what I always fear. So we're here actually in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of the Alboran Sea. And usually only cargo ships are here. And so now there is now a sailing vessel, so a catamaran, well, there is no AIS signal, so if it's now dark, actually I can't see it except from the lights, but it's the sea state is at least moderate at the moment, and it's hard to see, so I'll check if I can see it at least on the radar.
It was a catamaran, and it was pure luck to see it with the naked eye. The sun was bright and highly reflecting on the waves. This boat wasn't equipped with an AIS, which I find a little bit negligent for such open sea passages. However, I made an excellent progress towards the west, running dead downwind in a force 5. And the wind was about to increase, and the boat got even faster. It was already in the evening, and it was soon about to get dark, so I cooked a meal for dinner. On this fast downwind race, I discovered that the inner bearing of the propeller shaft seems to become worn out.
Damn it. All of a sudden, the wind picked up immediately. To wind force 7. So I just used the last daylight, so meanwhile it's almost dark, to completely remove the Genoa and put up the staysail, and I put a third reef in the in the mainsail, just to be on the safe side, because now it's getting dark and I'm not sure what will happen in the night. So in some weather report they said it could be a wind force 8. Unfortunately the message was a little bit scrambled, so I don't know really which area they meant. So actually it's extremely hot. So outside it's not so hot. It has about, not sure yet, I think 20 degrees, something like that, 18, 20. But the waves came over several times, so I'm now wet in the inside from sweating and the outside from the waves. So that's sailing.
Since I was offshore several days, I had only very bad VHF coverage. So I picked up only very garbled weather reports, and the Starlink didn't work for a reason which I will discover in the near future. But I know the Mediterranean and its weather patterns very well, so I wasn't really concerned. I observed the weather with my instruments and of course watched the clouds outside. It was this very same night at around midnight as I sailed across the prime meridian from east to west. A little bit later, I recognized some lightning activity to the west into which I was sailing to. But it looked pretty far away and I also couldn't see any activity on the radar. So I made it through the night with a good progress. The constantly blowing wind through the night piled up the waves.
This was definitely a rough night. It's still rough outside, as you might see here outside. There were a lot of several thunderstorms and lightning all around and a lot of rain and constantly force 7, and it peaked up to, I think the maximum that I read on my computer here was 38 knots, so that's gusting to force 8. I'm pretty excited about seeing a weather chart of what this actually was. So because the wind is constantly from our northeast, so basically everything looked like this has been a frontal system or frontal disturbance, I don't know exactly, but the wind direction is a little bit irritating. So it's northeasterly, as I said, and frontal systems in the Mediterranean typically are accompanied by southerly winds. So I'll see. Well, I didn't get too much sleep, although I could sleep. I could sleep sometime, of course. And now I think it's time to get a coffee. I have to take the staysail down because one of these connectors somehow got disconnected. And so I have to take it completely down, which will be a little of a challenge at the current situation. The sea is confused and very rough, and well, the wind is about force 7, so well, yes, not an easy job, but I have to do it before something else rips off.
Later, the cloud layer became thicker again and everything became an unnatural yellowish color, as if there were a big fire somewhere. But of course it wasn't. I was roughly about 50 miles west of Cabo de Gata. And suddenly, the wind died completely.
It was blowing like hell now since 24 hours, and suddenly they turned off the wind completely. Here you can see it's everything. That's the sand from the desert that was carried with the wind. Also the sail. Look at the sail, it's completely dirty.
I was caught in the middle of this small frontal system. The Cape Index shows thunderstorm tendency, and the wind brings sand directly from the south. At this position, I was roughly just about 100 miles north of the African desert. The lightning map of that time clearly shows the lightning activity around. Of course, I didn't have access to any of these charts at the time then.
Actually, I think that's just a short break. I can also hear the thunder from a thunderstorm somewhere. Probably there. On this side, it's dark as well.
But after a while, the wind came back again. But the wind didn't last very long and died down again around 2 o'clock in the morning. It was time to start the engine, since I came close to the shipping lane.
Good morning, another morning. So actually too much sleep I couldn't get in the night because I showed you that I went through, or let's say I passed before this traffic separation scheme, and there is really a lot of traffic. Also the wind died and I had to start the engine, so the last 4 hours I was running on engine, but now there's a light breeze, so I could set sail again. It's a southwesterly force 2, and well, yes, we are on the way. The sun is coming up, so I think it's a good time to make a coffee. I just made a bad discovery. All those side windows, not sure how they are called, are not watertight anymore. Here it leaks completely water, and here the mattress is also wet, and also here that's all wet. That's here that leaks water. So these tiny windows on the side of the hull are completely unnecessary features anyway, in my opinion. Nobody needs them really, it just makes the boat a little bit weaker, as we can see now. So I have to think about how to get them watertight again, because if everything gets wet always, that's not definitely not an option. And so the mattress is completely soaked on this side. And my clothes also, which were in my front cabin, so there are 4 on each side. Well, I have to think about get them watertight when I'm in the next harbor.
And so I sailed into the next night.
It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm beating still against the wind to the west. The wind also picked up some hours ago already, and I have 2 reefs in the mainsail, and but still have my Genoa up and not the staysail to be a little bit more powerful. Good morning. It was a long night again, although I could get some sleep since I went a little bit offshore, but not too far into the traffic lane from the cargo ship, so it worked really well. Unfortunately, very little progress, and meanwhile I think that's because additionally there is a current which drags me to the east, so I can see it from the text that the angle gets worse. Meanwhile it's about, I'm not really sure, let's say 55 to 6 hours that I'm beating here against the wind. So I will now close in to the shore and then start the engine and try to make way to the west, because the wind east also, it's in the moment just actually west force 3.
Unfortunately, the wind picked up again during the day, which made it a bumpy ride with the engine. I was eager to reach the harbor and didn't want to tack against it for another 24 hours. Finally, I managed to surf into the shallow and somewhat challenging entrance of this marina, did the paperwork and found a final parking position, at least for the next days.
So here I am now. I'm here in the Marina Benalmádena. It's a marina in South Spain, and yes, roughly 800 nautical miles and 8.5 days. And now I'm here. It was a great adventure, and I learned a lot about myself, about the boat, about sailing. And so now I will do some repairs here and wait for my friend, for my friend to come, who will join me. I think tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. But today I do nothing, and I just was in the supermarket and look what I found: a can of Spanish beer. So, cheers. Here we are again. So this was episode number 2, where I sailed from Sardinia, from the port of Cagliari to Benalmádena in Spain. Actually, the trip took place from the 17th to the 13th of May 2023, and it was 14 days in total, starting in Cagliari. But as you've seen, I then went back to Sardinia in Portofino, where I had to wait a few days, and so, and then I started again from Portofino to Spain, which then again was 9 days times 24 hours, so it was a 9-day trip non-stop. In total, the whole trip was about 1,160 nautical miles, which were about 980 under sails because of really perfect wind, or almost perfect wind. And this was completely different as in the first episode, where we had almost no wind, let's say it like this. And to summarize about this trip a little bit, so actually this was one of the best passages I did in my whole life in the Mediterranean Sea, and I sailed a lot in the Mediterranean Sea, but this passage was really perfect, mainly because I had wind for many days and the wind was blowing almost the whole time into the right direction, and that's not always, as you probably know from your own sailing trips. It was a really adventurous sailing trip, so I had all kinds of weather situations, from let's say strong winds, gale force winds, thunderstorms, no winds, and so on. And some technical surprises turned out, like for example, the portholes were not watertight anymore, and batteries showed that they are, let's say, old and should be replaced. However, I made it to Spain, and this is now where episode number 3 starts, and just give you a brief, let's say, brief introduction what will happen in episode number 3. So the first thing is one of my best friends will join me for this trip, and we will sail from Benalmádena in Spain to Kinsale in Ireland. It will be a mixed passage again, you will see. And one of the highlights is we went through the famous Strait of Gibraltar. And this comes with some, let's say, with some fear, because there the dangerous orca zone starts, which you will see in next episode. And well, yes, that's it. So probably if you can read German, consider to buy one of my books. So Allein, nach über, den Atlantik. Link is down below. You get it everywhere in the internet. Well, that's it. So stay healthy, stay tuned until I will release the episode number 3. I'm Bernhard from the Austrian mountains.